Hello, hello, hello. I've been binge watching Dr. Robert Sapolsky's videos again last night and today, and I watched the interview with a man from England, looks like, or Poland, I don't know. And he was interviewing Dr. Robert Sapolsky. He was talking from his house, and that was a month ago, and I guess maybe they stopped the lectures right now because of the virus situation, but he is always giving interviews from his house now, and that's really super. I really appreciate that. And it is always a pleasure listening to him. I just want to make this very clear right up front, because I have a different view. I have a different worldview than Dr. Sapolsky has. And that doesn't make me appreciate him less. I appreciate him very much. He is contributing a whole lot of information to the world, okay, to anyone who is interested in those subjects. I'm very interested. I studied psychology. I've always been interested in neuroscience. And that would be amazing to see Dr. Sapolsky in person. But it's wonderful that we get to see him on the internet, and that all of those videos are available for everyone to watch without having to pay a whole lot of money for tuition. So I really find his lectures amazing. He is an amazing speaker. He speaks fluently. It is kind the way he talks. And he is always trying to neutralize scientific studies that have come out that may be offensive to people, that other people have conducted. He's trying to neutralize that. And of course he comes from the extreme liberal think camp in his life. I come from that camp myself. And because of animal rights activism later on, I started that in 2002. I've always been somewhat involved already on my own before I met Paul, but Paul introduced me to Sea Shepherd and PETA and Julia Hill and all of those amazing activist people and groups. And that's when I got really active. Like, that's when I started to write my own petition letters all the time, every day. I went out in front of stores to petition for the whales. That's when I started to get a lot of information on what's happening in the world and what's happening with animal testing at the universities and the cruelty of it. And I've met people who have experienced this firsthand. I've talked to one woman. She was working at the university. She was a student and also working in their lab facilities, and she found out what they were doing. She did a little bit investigation on them, And she found out that it wouldn't matter how incredibly ridiculous someone's science project was, they would be approved by the university for it. They would get grants, they would get facilities, they'll get test animals. And then what happens is, these people, it is very likely that some of those so-called research groups, that they actually pay the university money to be approved for these so-called research projects that they're doing. Very, very cruel tests that have been conducted multiple times already, that don't need to be conducted anymore. They never needed to be conducted because they're so cruel, but they do it anyway. I'm not saying that all research projects are based on this, but I think a whole lot are based on this. And I am already against animal testing if it is a sincere research project for neuroscience or any other field, okay, that involves any animal. I'm already opposed to this. But now we're entering into the era of hidden butcher tourism. Butcher tourism is that's a field of that's cruelty that is conducted with a legal cover-up. So, for example, butcher tourism could be anything from people paying money to the Faroese Islanders out there all the way towards the North Pole to participate in the butchering of pilot whales. And they are very happy to take money from anyone and let people then participate in that. That's butcher tourism, okay? And they call it a tradition. Okay? That's why I made that very clear in my videos, that I am against tradition when it involves cruelty and violence. Okay? Then the tradition is also not okay anymore. Okay? So that's one thing. Another thing was James Hetfield from Metallica and other cruel people like Ted Nugent going to Russia and I think also Alaska and other places. They went to Russia. I know that James Hetfield went to Russia. It was all, the information was all in the open. He even bragged about it, not knowing that maybe some people have a problem with it. So they think that somehow that boosts their testosterone, that makes them feel more manly or something like this. It doesn't boost the testosterone. It's just an emotion. That's all it is. It's some kind of ego. It's like it's a mental illness. It's a cluster B mental illness. That's what it is. They shoot, they'll go out there and they'll pay native people, whatever, who are living in those regions or have always lived in those regions. They pay them and they let them lead the way to like a hibernating bear mother with her babies, with her bear babies that are nursing on her. They lead them to that bear or male bear hibernating, completely harmless, sluggish animal hibernating through the winter. They go into this slow motion. They sleep a lot because that's how they make it through the winter, through those harsh Siberian winters. So the people that live there, they know where those bears are hibernating. They bring the butcher tourists to the bears and let the butcher tourists shoot them with some kind of gun or whatever. And they shoot them right in front of the baby bears. And the baby bears go into a shock. Okay, this is a tremendous trauma to their system. And these people, they seem to not think twice about it. They feel nothing, I guess. Yeah. They have no compassion at all. And the sadistic butcher tourists, they feel nothing, and they feel, I don't know what they feel. I really actually don't even want to know. It is so, but whatever they explain, how they explain it, it is, to me, it is so foreign and so strange and so alien. And alien in a bad way. It is, I don't think aliens are bad like that. So it is so strange to me personally, how someone can do something like this just to make themselves feel like a lion, or make themselves feel like they got the upper hand back emotionally or something. I've heard people talk like this. So they feel so unempowered inside. There's on such a low vibrational mind state that they feel the need to hurt another living being in order to make themselves feel like they're in charge, or like they're powerful. But it's an illusion. It's a complete illusion. Okay, so this is what's happening in the world. Okay, then there's the butchering of dolphins in Taiji. The fishermen go in there and they butcher dolphins for meat, and they take some of them when they are very young. Or I think they take all the young ones, the babies, the juveniles. They take them into their aquarium pool, where they keep them there until they find the highest bidder from around the world to ship them all the way around the world to another aquarium where they can perform for audiences. So, and that's why, that is exactly why we need to never go to any of those dolphin performing ocean aquarium places ever again. Okay, so that's, and then they also have people come there and give them even money, and so that they can participate in those butcher ceremonies. So, and the fisher people, they don't care. They take the money, and then they let these other people even butcher those poor animals. And then we have universities that look the other way, that will take bribe money from sadistic people, from sadistic butcher operations. And they will have pseudo-scientific research that they do. Cruelty disguised as a scientific research project. And they do all kinds of horrific things. I've even seen some videos about this. What they're doing, they're repeating these Harlow monkey tests And it was so bad what I saw there, that it was so horrific for me to see that I had a nervous breakdown. I had to, and when I get a nervous breakdown, when I see something really horrific, it is so bad with me that I can't even find the button to turn it off. I end up panicking and screaming and turning the power button off on the computer. This has happened many times already, and people are probably gonna laugh and say, look at that, she can't even think, and how ridiculous, how ludicrous, how retarded or whatever. No. I have real high compassion. I have extreme levels of oxytocin in my body. And as Robert Sapolsky already said, what researchers have found out is that people that have extremely high oxytocin levels naturally in their bodies, which is the mother instinct, which is the compassion, the natural compassion for another living being. They found out that it not only makes people more compassionate, it also makes people more of a family bonding person, and with that, more of a person who will block others out. But what they forgot to mention is that we don't block others out for no reason. We block those people out of our family, and we will have security cameras, and we will have guns, and all of that. We do that out of compassion again. Okay, this is also just a logical inference that is happening. If we follow this train of thought in a logical way, just by logic, you will, if you love your family members, you will block those people out that are a threat to your family members. I hope that is very self-explanatory already, but it seems to not be self-explanatory. That's why I make these videos. It seems to not be self-explanatory enough for most people, which is shocking and deeply disturbing and sad for me to see. That obviously the majority of humans, they don't have that level of compassion, of oxytocin, of family member protection. And Dr. Sapolsky, from the way he was talking to the interviewer about this, I don't know if that's the case. Really, it's a question that I have to him. Do you judge people who have high oxytocin? Do you judge me for wanting to protect my dog and my husband? Do you judge me for being worried for my family, also the ones overseas that I don't get along with? Do you judge me for caring about them and worrying about them? Do you judge me for having compassion for the animals in the laboratory? Those are all my children, by the way, all of them, energetically. If we have compassion, that's how we feel. Okay, do you judge me for that? He would probably judge me if I came into your laboratory, right, and took some rats out and let those rats, adopt them out to a caring, compassionate family where they can roam around the house, or adopt them myself. let them have a good life, or bring them to Africa where they actually originally came from, or bring them to the equator somewhere where it's nice and warm, where they don't have to where they don't have to be put into a warm house, so where they can be completely free and have it warm. So that's where rats should be living. They shouldn't be living in a cold climate, or in a laboratory. And larger animals they're using, and there's a sliding scale of sentience. Rats feel pain, okay, just like I do, and then the sentience level goes up the larger the animal is. And in whales they are more sentient and more intelligent than humans are, or the largest land animals. Okay. But I think people are not considering any of these things. Most people are not considering these things. I'm doing this here to calm my own nerves down, and I hope that calms other people's nerves down. At the same time that I'm talking about this very difficult subject. We have to think about this subject. I'm sorry, we have to think about it. We can't just ignore it. We can't just ignore the problems and say, oh, there's no problems. I don't see problems, I'm blocked out. I don't see any problems. It's all positive. No, it's not. Okay. There are problems in the world, and the problems are not positive. Okay. And me talking about this is neither positive nor negative, and you can't be blaming me for being negative. Okay. Because the facts are negative in character, because the people who allow this to happen out of fear of being negative, they're being very negative to the world, to the animals out there. That's negative. Okay. If we want to use these words, these terms, positive or negative. Okay. So it's very negative. Violence conducted to another living being is very negative, and I feel very strongly about this, and that's why I make these videos, to get people to put their minds into it, okay, to actually look at the problems, research it for yourselves, don't take my word for it, look it up. Don't read some Christian corporate anti-information, but read it all. Read anything you can find. And don't just and don't read what the Dalai Lama said about it. He conducts cruel animal tests. That's what I read several times. He got into neuroscience, actually. So it's not that compassionate. The Buddha would never do this. Okay, the Buddha would never conduct tests on animals. Just to let people know, I see a lot of people in the spiritual community. They're leaning towards Buddhism, and they worship the Dalai Lama, and they'll shun me for being negative. Yeah. They're being negative. Okay. They're being very negative because they look the other way when it comes to problems in the world, when it comes to cruelty. That's very negative, to look the other way. Okay. And if we care, if we have compassion in us, we do not look the other way. We look at the problems and we say, how in the world can this happen? What can I do to help? Okay, one way to help is to research it, to read more about it, to find out more about it, to investigate it for yourself. Maybe you can conduct your own investigation to get FBI on board with this, to help us investigate the cruelty, okay? To get anyone on board, any person, any group, any association, affiliation, any operation, any organization, okay, get anyone on board that we can get to make the world better. Okay. When you have compassion, when you have high levels of oxytocin and you care about those other living beings, whether they're your family or not, then you do something to make it better. You do something to help. Okay. You create a petition, you circulate petitions, like to stop the active sonar tests from the U.S. Navy. It needs to be stopped worldwide. That's cruel. It causes marine mammals to bleed to death internally. For whales, this is a devastating thing. Devastating death. Horrible, cruel, painful death. Hemorrhaging on the inside. Particularly in their eardrums. Can you imagine how brutal that is for whales when they have a very elaborated, very evolved hearing system and eardrum. People don't put their minds into this at all. They go by, oh, this is a market perpetuation that makes us money. That's what they go by. And they bribe their way through all instances of government and politics. If you have compassion, you stand up against it. You say something. Even if that is a little bit risky. Even if your dad is not going to talk to you anymore, which was the case with my dad. You know, I wanted him to talk about this at the Rotary Club. He refused. Because he puts his standing in society and in the Rotary Club above the whale safety. So out of mind, out of sight. It's not his family. He has nothing to do with them. He lives on land. They live in the ocean. To him, it is shut out of his consciousness. This thing. I cannot do that. It doesn't work that way for me. I read about the active sonar in 2002. I got a petition from PETA sent to me, and then and other animal rights organizations as well, and also at that time also Greenpeace. So Greenpeace has become very corrupt now, unfortunately. So it's very sad. But I read about these things from different groups, and they explained what happens. Okay. They even had a Supreme Court judge wanting to rule in favor of the whales because of our overwhelming evidence, scientific evidence and proof, and marine biologists speaking up for the whales in court hearings. So several times judges have ruled in favor of the whales, but then the U.S. military and navy completely ignored it. They ignored a Supreme Court ruling. And it's real scary when that happens, because then you see, and then when no one else polices them or steps in, then that's when you know, oh, they got a little bit too much leverage here, obviously. If they ignore Supreme Court ruling and laws. That's very, very, very scary. But if you care, if you have compassion, you stand up. Even if it gets me shot one day, My oxytocin level, my compassion, okay, my empathy makes me do this, makes me speak out, makes me try to educate people, makes me do something about it. Okay. It makes me cry, it compels me. It compelled me for years to stand in front of stores and collect signatures. In wind and weather and coldness. Coldness of weather and coldness of people. I did it anyway. Because doing that made me feel a little bit better than not doing it. Just in that moment when I'm doing something to make it better, at least try to make it better, at least educate some people, get some signatures, send them to politicians. Even if they throw that away, at least it is at least a movement, an effort in the right direction. Okay, and that's how I view it. There are people that are more courageous than I am. There are people that are willing to break the laws. There are people that are willing to go to prison to bring awareness and to help and to rescue animals. Okay. Those are my heroes. I am too coward for that. I could not do it. It depends on the situation. It really depends on the situation. But I'm not gonna go. I cannot break the law. I cannot. Then I won't be of service anymore. If I get incarcerated or whatever. Can't do much. That would, I don't know, that would put me into a real horrible depression also. So, and then I can't be of service. So I have to figure out a way to be of service in making the world better and educating people in an effective but yet in a way that does not incriminate me. But there are other people that are more so advanced that take those risks. They risk their lives to save animals. Those are my heroes. Okay. I love you infinitely much. What I'm asking from the average person, from all of you, is do something for the animals. In the legal sphere, do something for the animals. Speak out for justice. Speak out for ethics. Speak out for protecting and rescuing animals. Speak out against butcher tourism and cruelty and animal testing. Do it. Speak out against it. My question to Robert Sapolsky is, do you judge me for that? Do you, not just asking you, do you do you view me as someone who has no other choice, and no free will in this way because of my biochemistry? And then you say, well, I forgive her because of her biochemistry, or which is basically a personal judgment against me. If you said that, do you judge me on a personal level? Do you, as the person, as the human, do you judge me for my compassion and for shunning out those people that are violent and cruel? Do you judge me for judging violent people? That is my question. And you probably do, and it wouldn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to me if someone judges me. I'm just trying to get awareness into you about this. I know that I am 100% right. Because I know love is right. Love is truth. Truth is always right. Okay, so you guys take care. Peace and bliss.